time. We all know how that works, but make sure you're still very, very courteous of their time. Okay? And finally, last night, if you flip the page, night 3, this one is a little bit more full, but its intention is to get a lot of the housekeeping business stuff done to where the rest of the pack is no longer kind of on the hook for taking care of them as much, and finally setting them up for success as they move forward. So this is a night where it actually may last an hour to hour and a half, and you can kind of prep them for that. That may take a little longer. Plan to have 2 separate groups like you had the last 2 nights, one for the kids, one for the adults. And what you're going to go over is a den operations overview, and even start recruiting your positions and putting a calendar together for over the summer. Many of your packs already have an idea of when you're going to go to either a resident camp or day camp or some of those major activities. With recruiting new families, we want to be sure that they have enough activities to do that they can meet maybe twice a month and still have a really, really good time. And one concern I did get from somebody was if they recruit tigers now in the spring and then they recruit them in the fall, the spring tigers would be on a different pace than the ones in the fall. My recommendation to that, and what you'll notice as we get to the sample calendar on the back, is that you can have them earn Bobcat. Every new scout earns Bobcat first because that's how we set certain expectations. But what you can do is you can set it up to where they really don't follow the book too much, and they don't really start the program, those adventure programs that are going to be part of the new Cub Scout program, until the fall. So why not do go-see-its and picnics and fishing trips over the summer? And you can easily fill those in without a lot of means to do that. And we'll get to that here in a minute. So that's the reason for the calendaring, is maybe setting up to where that den can go out on their own, whether somebody's at the church or not, and really have a good time and really hope to retain those kids a little better. So the first part of it is den operations overview. And it says right on here, focus on what it is really like to run a successful den meeting. We all know that the national trainings are fantastic to give us a basic overview of what Cub Scouting is and the oath and the promise, but sometimes what that shows is not really what it's like to run a meeting. You know, sometimes it's a little bit like herding cats, and a little bit it's going to be a little crazy. But how do we communicate those best things that we have all learned to make it easier for them to do so? Because you really want them to understand the real world version of a den meeting, or what the expectations would be, with a good plan, structure, and how it will look, and those types of things. And just use 15 minutes or so and just explain what a den meeting's like. Number 2, calendar and outline and planning. You can provide a sample calendar, simple like what I do on the back, which is a whole bunch of different ideas that Tiger Cubs can participate in, or Tiger Scouts can participate in, especially things that they can do over the summer, and work together with those parents to set up a plan on when those meetings will happen. By the time you finish these first 3 meetings, you're going to be into May. It's going to be the last month of school, and you're really looking at calendaring, getting them through Bobcat through May, and then really looking at calendaring June, July, and possibly the first part of August. So you have about a 2.5 month period that they're going to plan meetings, maybe with or without the rest of the pack. Okay? So be sure we can give them ideas. You can use the back of this guide if you need to, and it lists some great ideas. And then ask parents to take lead on each one. So maybe if you have 10 tigers, you have 10 meetings over the summer. Each one has one that they're differently responsible for. It helps share the load, and it also sets you up for success if they get used to being in leadership positions. Cost and funding overview. As of this point, the families probably have already started asking about, what's it going to cost me every year? What's the way that we're going to afford these things? You can start answering some of that, but you can let them know night 3 is rarely where you're going to cover that. And what you can do is you can share kind of a rough pack budget, and that you're working on it now for the following year, because typically we work on these things around May. But what you can start doing is giving them a real good idea of what the kind of costs and activities that your pack does, and so they can start planning ahead of time. And then you can help reinforce when it comes to September and October after our next recruitment. Our national popcorn sale begins, and that's a really great chance, especially for little cute tigers, to make a lot of funds to help their scouting program out, and remind them that we believe a scout is thrifty, that they will earn their own way. That's a big piece right there. Some of the things that the prep them for, and part of the reason we provide them with a shirt too as part of that deal is so they don't worry about uniform costs until the fall. If they have all used shirts they can wear when they go out and off site, that gives them a way of safely identifying their cubs. That's a big part of that. Leadership board and selection. Now, there's two different ways you can do a leadership selection that this kind of describes. One is to do it as a group. You come in with a board and you actually have the list of leadership positions and kind of a brief summary of what they would be able to do. Cub master, they run their pack meetings to help sub in if den meeting can't make it. A den leader, they run the weekly meetings. Now, with that being said, on Tigers, I am a big believer that parents rotate and take ownership of those programs versus leaving it up to just one leader. So one of the best things I think you could do is have more of a Tiger facilitator type position versus calling it a den leader. Somebody who's willing to make sure that every single meeting has somebody responsible for it and those things that need to be done are being accomplished. Okay? Or instead of doing a board, is you can do individual asks. You've now had 3 nights to get to know these folks. Maybe there's some really good observations you've made that you believe a personality would be a good fit. We all know often the person who raises their hand says, yes, I will do it, is not always the best one. We do all probably have examples of that in our own scouting career if you've been around for a few years. We really want to make sure the Tiger Den leader and the people interacting with this Tiger Den are the right people. There is no more important position in the scouting movement, not the scout executive on a national level, any executive, there's no more important position in this movement than the Tiger Den leader. They are the first impression. They are the people who help make the pack really start going on a very basic foundation level. They really, everything builds from where they're at. So we want to make sure that person is the right person. So if you want to do individual asks, please make that so, or you do it as a group and maybe you make recommendations. From looking at my observations, these people would be great at these positions, and start that conversation. Little peer pressure sometimes, as long as it's not overdone, is not a bad thing. So you got to be careful with that, but it may be a great recommendation to do so. And that's it for the 3-night recruitment process. Now for the calendaring, on the very back of this, there's actually a sample guide of some materials. Now I will note that the Bobcat information and lesson plans up here are out of the old materials. I really do like the recommendation of using activities that build through this process, so that way the kids can build them up, or whether it be water bottle rockets, rain gutter regatta, space derbies, things like that, and get them started, and then they kind of get to show it off with maybe their parents on their 4th night when they come back. But some of the ideas that we can talk about that don't require the church or the rest of the pack for over the summer, they can go see it's the police stations, the fire stations, news stations, grain elevators. We don't have a lot of people here in White Buffalo that I know of that go tour grain elevators, and there are places that will do that. Some of the local museums. Tiger Family Picnic, have their dens and have their parents and siblings and things go out for a family picnic and just have a good time, get to know each other. Going out swimming, Wingnuts baseball game, fishing, zoo trip, watermelon feed, a day at the lake, a barbecue, a field day, and of course do not forget our Take Flight Day Camp coming up on June 11th through 13th, or the Twilight Camp if mom and dad can't take off of work on June 18th, 19th, and 20th. That's there in the evening, so that way they can still definitely participate. The end result, though, and that I really want you to take away from this, is that every pack should consider doing a Tiger recruitment, especially those who recruit from multiple schools. I share this with you because this is the best time to get ahead of the curve before fall. This is where you can build a foundation of parents that are going to help you set yourself up for quite some time. If we do it early, we do it right this spring, this makes this fall very, very easy. You'll have new leadership. You'll have kids that are excited about the program after doing this all summer, and they will do a lot of the promoting and membership recruitment for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call at 491-2233 or email me at thomas.montiel@scouting.org, and I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. Until next time, I'll see you later.